So talking about digital rights and freedom of expression in West Africa, um, we have a pleasure of having a couple of panelists in our midst who are experts and have relevant experience in this field and will be sharing with us from their knowledge in this space. But before that, I'd like to do a short background on what the session is all about. With the advent of the Web 2.0, we see that new generation of internet users are not just consumers anymore, but producers of information on the internet. Today, we have millions of people who use social media platforms, and we have newspapers and media houses who have their platforms and share content on the internet. However, we can see that the growth of the internet has been characterized by increasing need for improvements in citizens' rights of access to information and also the freedom of expression. There's also an increasing rise in production of fake news and citizens promoting hate speech and violence, racism, and so on the internet. Digital rights are human rights. Therefore, we see that in the first edition of the 2016 Paradigm Initiative report on digital rights in Africa, Africa was declared the year of internet shutdowns in Africa. Yeah, it was declared the year of internet shutdown in Africa. And the year 2016 was actually marked with 11 internet shutdowns across the continent. So, and we can see that these has continued till date because we still have some reports of countries experiencing partial or full internet shutdowns as we speak. This raises important questions on the scope of digital rights and limits of freedom of expression in our region. This is why we have put together this amazing set of people on this panel who would share their vast experience and workings in various sections of this theme. Therefore, it's my pleasure to introduce the distinguished panelists for this session. First, I'd like to introduce Ms. Ena Anet Sambo from the Gambia. Our second panelist is Mr. Emmanuel Vitus, Google Policy Fellow with the Paradigm Initiative. And our last but not the least, the panelist is Mrs. Nena Owankama. She's from the World Wide Web Foundation. Yeah. So once again, let's put our hands together for our panelists. So I'm going to be throwing a few questions at our panelists who will be giving us short 5 minutes thoughts and understanding from their stakeholder point of view. So the first panelist I would like to put a question at is Mrs. Anna Annette. And we would like to know, when it comes to freedom of expression, we know that one of the most important things that are being discussed nowadays is the fake news and misinformation. So we'd like to know that what are the current issues that we face in West Africa concerning fake news, and what are the roles of stakeholders in addressing them? Ms. Annette, over to you.
Thank you very much, Bola. It's nice to be one of the panelists today. As we all know, the internet being a fundamental human right, it's very critical and one has to be able to use it wisely. We're talking of fake news, we're talking of cyberbullying, we're talking about hate speeches right now, which has now filtered around into various online platforms, which has led to most times a disregard for data protections and privacy. In Africa, we're looking at various issues that are happening. Just recently, in the case of Gambia, we've seen girls speaking up for the first time about their rape cases, and sensitive information have been uploaded through the different social media platforms available, forgetting that there are repercussions. We now have a situation whereby young people are using social media as a court of law, which is not the case. There are certain information that has to be posted online. There are certain information that doesn't really need to be online. But young people nowadays are losing the fact that social media is not a court of law, but rather a space where you can discuss issues affecting you. You can upload pictures, communicate with family and friends, but using it as a platform whereby anybody can post anything that they wish to post online and expect people to judge based on these circumstances is something that we really need to look at critically. It's not everything that one has to really post online. You need to be careful what you post. And remember, we should always remember that once you post something online, it's there forever. It doesn't matter how much time you take to block your account, delete it, you don't know who already has access to those information. And it might at some point in your life later on come back to haunt you. So we really need to be very careful using the internet. People are using it to be insulting one another. We're talking about hate speeches right now. These are all platforms that young people are now taking up, which is not really helping anybody, including them. As I keep saying, young people nowadays, you can't tell them not to go to the internet, but what you can do is you can really teach them and guide them through how to use the internet safely and wisely and in a very constructive manner. Because as I keep saying, they're the future leaders of tomorrow. And if they're not being guided properly, then we have a problem tomorrow. If everybody is coming up with stories talking about this is what happened to my grandfather at some point in his life, this is what happened to my grandmother at some point in her life, then where are we tomorrow? We are all doomed. So we really need to be very careful. And then talking about the roles the stakeholders can do in addressing fake news and the like, I think policymakers and regulatory bodies, including civil society organizations, should take it upon themselves right now to advocate and sensitize citizens from state level to individuals about the laws and acts in place and knowing when to draw the line in terms of what's it called, hate speeches and what's it called, uh, fake news. You know, so we really need to be very careful. It's a challenge right now, but one thing again I keep saying is what you don't want your parents to see you're doing online, what you don't want your grandparents to see you're doing online, and what you don't want your future kids to see that you're doing online, then do not post it online. That's not the place where it's supposed to be. I'll stop here for now.
Thank you very much for addressing some of the key points when it comes to fake news and misinformation online. So the first question.
My name is Aliuba. I'm very impressed with what the lady was talking about, about women's feeling whom they are. Actually, always I used to tell them that if you think that you're too small to make changes, you have never spent with mosquito on the same bed. So coming back to this thing is going to Annette. As you are somebody who have been standing fighting for women so long, so we say that if you talk on, like as you were saying, when we say right goes with responsibilities, that is obvious. So if we come here today, if we tell the people that your right online should be the same as your line offline. So people have different interpretation or misinterpret this statement. Because we are seeing today, most of the time when things are posted online, so those people, for instance, if you come to the cyberbullying and the like, people they can upload an individual video or the like. So after this thing being uploaded, you will see people being judgmental on the issue. Do you understand? They will be judgmental, saying that, for instance, I know this thing will happen to her. I know she's like this thing. Started to give all negative comments without finding how authentic is that thing posted. So is that, and if you talk to them, most of the time they will tell you that I have the right to speak. I have the right to say whatever I want. But I believe that you should buttress on what are the right actually that people have online. Thank you.
Good afternoon once again. My name is Mohamed El Sane from the Gambia College. What I have is a comment to the issue. Okay, it's very important we try to put things together because one, most of the youths are affected in the internet. When you look at the side of cyberbullying, this is an issue we need to try on our level best to make sure people are not affected because normally, these people are women who are affected, and so this can discourage these people to participate in public utilities that can affect their lives. So what are we going to do as Africans to make sure these people are put in place where if they are affected, people can try and remedy their situation and help them? That is the comment I want to put across.
Good afternoon. I am Mohamed Sisse, a Gambian, and my question goes to Madam Sambo. You talked about the online space as not a court of law, if I got you right. You gave an example of the rape girls that were going online in the recent past, voicing out their ordeals online, and then you, if I could get this statement right, it's like the online space is not a court of law whereby your ordeals could be taken care of. So does that imply that the affected persons should not share their ordeals online? One, and then if that is the case, does that mean that our rights online are lesser than our rights offline? And the second one is just an add-on for Madam Nena, if I get that right. You speak about having a voice. I just want to add to you, for you, that it's not only about the person speaking, but voice matters when you are being listened to. It is important that you speak and share your ideas and views at the right time with the right people and on purpose. But what is more important is for you to be listened to. If you are not listened to, then your voice has no means nothing. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, madam. My question is going to madam. During your presentation, you made a mention of digital rights, that the same right that you have online should be the same right on offline. But you came to mention like those rights should go with responsibilities as users. Can you please outline some of those rights that we presently secured as online users? If there is any right that we are securing as online users, can you elaborate on that, please?
Okay, thank you very much. Over to the panelists. I believe they might have noted a couple of questions that were directed to them as well. So
Okay,
we have really short time, so
Don't
try
worry.
to make it brief. Thank you.
I'll just summarize all the questions being asked and just respond in 1 or 3 sentences. Just the first question regarding victims and their ordeal. We should try to remember that when such issues happen, it just doesn't affect the victims alone. It affects their families. It affects their work relation. It affects their activities, daily activities, and the like. So we should learn to put ourselves in victims' shoes to know how it really feels. You know, and then going to the second question that asks about initiatives that are really helping victims in terms of such issues. My organization, which was started last year, which is SHOAW Gambia, what we do is we provide safe space for victims to be able to openly share their stories and also receive counseling at the same time. Because this is an issue when it happens to them, they are traumatized for life, but they need to go through some form of counseling to be able to overcome these challenges. There are also some other institutions that offer the same or similar to what we do, but then reach out to them. If you don't talk about your problems, people wouldn't know how to help you. So make sure you're able to talk about issues that are affecting you to people so you can get the necessary help needed. And then the last one about sharing audios online. One thing people need to know is what is personal, what is private to them, and what is personal to them, and what is public or what they want the public to see. Learn to differentiate the two. Don't put too much information online that you know you'll be able to get hot someday tomorrow. Once you know what's private, you're not going to share it with anybody, it will be private. Once you want people to see certain things, it's public, then people will get access to them, and then you don't have a say in it once it's being shared or whatsoever it is. So learn to differentiate this rule, and then you will know how to really keep yourself safe when you're online. Thank you.